Hello everyone again on this incredibly windy day, but at least it isn't raining. It's been raining cats and dogs for a couple of weeks, I think. It's been very difficult to get on the allotment. The flowers are going over, as you can see, the cosmos and a few dahlias left. And we come down to what I need to do. There's still some jobs I need to do and plant some plants, and the three most important ones now are the overwintering onions, the radar, the garlic and the aquadulce Claudia broad beans. And this is where I'm going to grow the overwintering onions, and that's where I've got the onions in pots. And I've grown these indoors in an unheated room, and they're not too pot bound, so I have left them probably about a week longer than I wish to, because I couldn't get out onto the allotment. But now I'll plant them out. And these are the onions now planted, and I'll put a bit of protection over them. I don't think it's a problem with the birds so much now as with certain animals liking to sit on them rather than sit on the wet grass. And these are the broad beans that I'm going to plant. It's about 2 days since I planted out the onions. The winds have died down, but this morning we had fog and it's freezing, and now a couple of hours later we have lovely bright sun and it's warming up a bit. A lot of people plant broad beans in long tubes or in tall pots because of their roots, and you can see that root coming out. I normally get away with small pots because I only plant them till they're about that high, and so there isn't a problem. This year, because I couldn't get on the plot, it may be a problem because they're getting a bit root bound. And those are the roots, but it's not too bad, and I don't think there'll be a problem with planting them. I've used these fencing sticks, which I've not used before, because I wanted space at the sides rather than what you'd get with the hoops, but I'm not sure that they're that steady, but they have withstood the winds that we had the other day. And these are the planted broad beans, and I didn't have any problems with the roots. They all came out really quite well, and now I need to be able to cover them with something that will fit this size plot, which I might have a bit of problems with. And have you noticed the soil? You can see that when I dig that there is hardly any cardboard left because it's rotted down and the worms are very happy, and this is more or less what's left. So it doesn't add nutrients to the soil, but it does add a nice conditioning to the soil, and as long as you can keep your worms happy, that's all that matters. Well, I'm really surprised that the scaffold debris netting fitted. I couldn't get anything wider than 3 meters. When I tried out an old piece of green netting, it was short by about 8 inches, so it's worth trying out, and it fits perfectly well. I fix it at the bottom with these, which I bought from the pound shop. This year I bought about 10 packs of 12 because I knew I used them so much last year and I didn't have enough, and they didn't really promote them very well. They were just stuck in a corner somewhere, and that is where I put them. On top of that I put bricks to hold them in. These little sticks I also got from Aldi in spring. They had 3 sizes. These are 5 foot and a 6 foot, and the 6 foot, they're plastic covered metal, and the 6 foots are on a par with that of Wilko, but they're half the price. So all in all, I am really pleased with that. One more job done. I'm on the allotment on plot 2, and this is the row of raspberries. The first 4 are Glenample, which seem to be taking now, and this one actually gave us some lovely fat tasty raspberries this summer, and so I can highly recommend Glenample. And this is Malling Admiral raspberry, which needs to be pruned back to about 5 stems each. You cut out first the fruited stems and then the others cut back to about 5. otherwise it will take too much energy from the plant. And also any runners, I don't have any here, I do have a lot of weeds, but any runners that grow out, because often they grow out to about that distance and then grow up again, those runners you can dig up, plant in pots, expand your numbers of raspberries, or give them to friends, but generally they need to be taken away. And then this needs to be tied in to posts, which I haven't done yet. And at the end of the row of raspberries, where the soil slopes a bit, where the land slopes a bit, I am going to plant the 2 Tulamine raspberry plants that I got from Wilko. It's going to spoil the symmetry of the plot a bit, but as you can't see much of the symmetry because of the plants, it really isn't a problem. But I do want to have those raspberries in the soil. And here are the raspberry canes trimmed down to just a few stems. And as you can see, some of them are quite tall, but don't cut them off because that will encourage side shoots at the wrong time of the year. The best time to cut those just a little bit if they're too tall is in the spring, and the encouragement of side shoots means that they'll get buds and flowers and therefore more raspberries. At the bottom you can see I've done the first of the winter manure runs this morning, and that's looking pretty good now. I'm really pleased with that. And then over here I planted up some of that topsoil that I got from skip diving and the 2 Tulamine raspberries. So the raspberries are ready to go. And now for the asparagus. As you can see, the asparagus fronds are now gone over, they've gone very yellow, and I'll be cutting those down. I'll be putting very strong winds, and I'll be putting a little bit of sand on the ground to help the drainage, and then a lot of horse manure, well rotted down horse manure on top of it. And here's the after picture. A little bit of very fine horticultural grit was put down, and then a lot of horse manure which I got this morning. And that hopefully will be nice and ready to get through the winter and then give me some lovely shoots in late spring. Hello, and I'm back home in my back garden, and I'd just like to take a minute out to show you about another little acquisition I got from a neighbour up the road. I think my reputation as a scavenger goes before me now, and this is it. Small metal tubes. You wonder what I'm going to do with them, and I wonder that too. But do you remember a little acquisition I got in the spring? I'll just show you. They're little white tubes. Which I got for free from another road. And what I can do is use these, because the diameter of this is really quite narrow, and use these to strengthen it while I make small little hoops to protect plants with. What I'm going to do with these big ones, I'm not quite sure at the moment, but I'll think about it. I'm in the front garden, and this is the quince tree that I mentioned to you in the last video clip. And the quinces are now falling down, and I've harvested several of them. And this is a problem I have with the quinces that I'd like to show you. As you can see, it has a brown margin, and it's a very spongy texture there. And this part it was white when I cut it, but it's probably browned a bit due to oxidation, but that isn't oxidation. This is what happens on every single quince I have. The fruit itself is really beautiful, and it has a lovely certain perfume when it's ripe, which I really do like, but it is upsetting that I have to throw all these out on the compost heap. And I have several bags this size full of the fruit, and I have more to pick. It seems that I looked up some YouTube's recipes on the internet, and it's quite common to use these in Germany, and I've seen some where they've got this brown margin on, but she didn't mention it, and she was trying to make jam from it. And in other YouTubes they say, and my German isn't very good, that it must be absolutely white, it mustn't have this on it. A delivery man mentioned he was from Romania and could he have some, and I gave him some, but I tried to explain to him that there was a problem with them, but he only could work out the word jam from his smartphone translator. and he said that in his country they were a very common tree, but this was the first he'd seen in England after a few years here, but possibly because most people plant them in the back garden. It is also a very hard food to cut, so I use the bread knife to cut them. You can cut little bits off from there and make some jam with that, with the white bits, but we'll see how it goes. If anyone knows what this problem is, and I know it's not a disease, as I've said before, the RHS at Wisley gave me advice that it was a problem with not being able to take up the correct nutrients from the soil. There's something stopping it, but I don't know what. If anyone knows anything about this, would you let me know about it? I know Monty Don grows these fruits in his garden and he doesn't seem to have any problems with them, but it would be helpful if I could get some advice. Well, autumn is turning into winter and the leaves look beautiful on the ground. Those are the cherry leaves. But at least it's dry today, although it's very cold, and the leaves look really rather lovely against the sky. Unfortunately, I've got to pick them up, but in the next video clip I'll talk to you about leaves as a resource and what I do with them. Until then, take care, please comment and please subscribe if you wish.